In 1966, a computer made a therapist's secretary cry. In 2026, an AI agent will run your customer support overnight in 12 languages while you sleep. This is the story of how 60 years of chatbots got us here, the dead ends, the false dawns, and the one Tuesday in 2022 when everything changed. It started at MIT. In 1966, a German-American computer scientist named Joseph Weizenbaum was frustrated by the AI hype of his decade. He built ELIZA, named after the Cockney flower girl in Pygmalion who learns to speak above her station. ELIZA did exactly one weird trick. She rephrased your sentences as questions. You typed, "I'm sad about my mother." ELIZA replied, "Tell me more about your mother." That was it. No understanding, pure pattern matching. The most famous script she ran was called Doctor, which mimicked a Rogerian therapist, non-judgmental, mirror-based. Weizenbaum thought he was making a satirical demo, a parlor trick to expose how shallow machine conversation really was. Then his own secretary, who had watched him build the program for months, asked him to leave the room so she could talk to ELIZA in private. He never recovered from that moment. Weizenbaum spent the next 40 years warning the world that humans would believe machines understood them long before machines actually did. He wrote a book in 1976 called Computer Power and Human Reason. Almost nobody read it. He was 60 years early. 6 years later, at Stanford, a psychiatrist named Kenneth Colby went the other direction. Instead of simulating a therapist, he simulated a patient. PARRY, built in 1972, modeled paranoid schizophrenia. He had beliefs, fears, internal emotional levels, anger, mistrust, suspicion. Real psychiatrists tested him by reading transcripts and trying to spot which patient was the program. They couldn't reliably tell. Then, at the 1972 International Conference on Computer Communication, the first chatbot-on-chatbot conversation in history took place. PARRY met ELIZA over the ARPANET, a paranoid patient typing to a Rogerian therapist. The transcript is still online today, and it is genuinely strange to read. They talk past each other for pages, two illusions of mind bouncing off each other. It was the future of AI for 30 seconds, and then it was a dead end. Commercially, neither program ever made anyone any money. Skip 30 years, the web arrives. In 1995, a researcher named Richard Wallace built ALICE, Artificial Linguistic Internet Computer Entity. Wallace's real innovation was AIML, a markup language for chatbot rules. Suddenly, anyone with a text editor could write their own bot. ALICE won the Loebner Prize for most human-like chatbot 3 times. Then, in 2001, a startup called ActiveBuddy launched SmarterChild on AOL Instant Messenger, MSN, and Yahoo. 30 million users added SmarterChild as a buddy. You could ask for the weather, sports scores, stock prices, definitions, jokes, homework help, or you could be 12 years old and curse at it for an hour after school. SmarterChild was the first chatbot that felt mainstream. It was not smart. It was a giant pile of scripted rules and API calls behind a chat window. But for a generation of millennials, it was their first conversation with a machine. Microsoft bought ActiveBuddy in 2007. Smartphones killed instant messengers. And SmarterChild was quietly shut down in 2008. The chatbot golden age ended before most people realized it had started. 2011 was the next inflection year, and it gave us 2 icons. February 2011, IBM Watson walked onto the Jeopardy stage and beat Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter, the 2 greatest champions in the show's history. Watson was a room-sized machine, 2,800 CPU cores, 16 terabytes of RAM. It cost IBM around $25 million to build. It read Wikipedia and felt like a god. October the same year, Apple released the iPhone 4S with a feature nobody saw coming: Siri. A startup called Siri Inc., spun out of SRI International, had been working on a voice assistant for years. Apple bought them in 2010. Now your phone could understand, set a timer for 12 minutes, and actually do it. Suddenly, conversational AI wasn't a lab demo behind a server rack. It was in everyone's pocket. But here is the dirty secret. Siri 2011 was still scripted patterns under the hood, with speech recognition glued on top. The intelligence layer was barely better than Alice. The breakthrough was the input, voice, useful for setting timers, useless for anything that actually mattered. 2014, Amazon launches the Echo and Alexa. Within 5 years, smart speakers were in over 100 million American homes. Every brand on Earth rushed to build a skill for Alexa. Most were abandoned by their developers within a single month. The dirty secret was the same. These assistants ran on intent classifiers. The developer enumerated every phrase a user might say, mapped each phrase to a function call, and prayed nobody asked something they hadn't predicted. If you went off script even slightly, the assistant broke. Cortana, Bixby, Google Assistant. Same architecture, same fragility. Then May 2018, Google I/O Sundar Pichai walks on stage and plays a phone call. Google Duplex calls a hair salon to book an appointment. The bot says, and and adapts to a confused human receptionist in real time. The audience gasped. It was the closest thing to passing a Turing test the public had ever seen, but Duplex was hand-tuned for exactly 2 domains: haircuts and restaurant reservations. Outside those 2 contexts, it could not function. It was a magic trick, beautifully performed, scaled to nothing. 2017, 8 researchers at Google publish a paper with a strange title, Attention is All You Need. 8 pages. It introduces the transformer architecture, the engine of every large language model that follows. OpenAI, then a small nonprofit lab in San Francisco, scales the idea aggressively. GPT-1 in 2018, GPT-2 in 2019, which OpenAI initially refused to release because they thought it was too dangerous. GPT-3 in 2020, 175 billion parameters. And for the first time, a language model could write essays, code, jokes that genuinely surprised researchers. But GPT-3 lived behind a developer API. To use it, you had to be a programmer. Most people never tried it. Then on November 30th, 2022, OpenAI shipped a side project, a free chat interface on top of GPT 3.5. They called it ChatGPT. 5 days later, it had 1 million users. 2 months later, 100 million. The fastest consumer product launch in human history. By Christmas, lawyers, teachers, marketers, and software engineers had all tried it. Chatbots stopped being toys. They wrote code, drafted contracts, explained physics, summarized PDFs, generated business plans. The entire technology industry pivoted in a single weekend. 2023, 2024, 2025. The next leap, and a much weirder one. Models stop just answering questions. They start doing things. Claude and GPT 4o get tool use, computer use, vision, long memory. Open source agent frameworks explode. AutoGPT goes viral in March 2023 with the demo of an AI that plans its own goals and executes them step by step. The React paper formalizes the loop: reason, act, observe, repeat. By 2025, an AI agent doesn't just tell you about your refund policy. It looks up the customer, opens the order in your e-commerce backend, checks shipment status, processes the refund through your payment provider, drafts the apology email, and posts a Slack notification to your support channel. It does this in 15 seconds while the customer is still typing their next message. The question stops being, can the chatbot answer this? It becomes, how many of my support tickets can my agent fully close end-to-end with zero human in the loop? For most small businesses, the honest answer is somewhere between 70 and 85%. Which brings us to 2026. AI agents are no longer a research project. They are infrastructure. Every serious business has one. Multilingual, multi-channel. Plugged into your shop, your help center, your inbox, your CRM. Setup is 15 minutes. Cost is less than a coffee a day. The question stopped being, should I have an AI agent? It became, why doesn't my agent already speak the language of my customer in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Italy? If you are still answering the same 6 customer questions every single day, in 3 different time zones, you are running 1990s tooling in a 2026 world, and your competitors aren't? 60 years, compressed into 10 minutes. ELIZA to AI agents? The shape of the curve is always the same. Pundits overhype the future, the technology disappoints for a decade, researchers grind quietly in labs. And then, on a random Tuesday, the future just shows up, useful, cheap, and so obvious in hindsight that nobody remembers being skeptical. We are at the just there moment for AI agents. If you want to see what one looks like running on a real, small, multilingual business, go to aismarttalk.tech. We built ours so you don't have to. See you in the next one.